Greetings and salutations. It is I, your humble host, Captain Vern Lunar, bringing you another entry into the unknown. I bring you today another Patreon request from Patreon supporter Thomas Hibbert, and as always, if you would like your own Patreon video, please follow the link in the description below, and yeah, without further ado, I bring you the tale of DC Universe versus Nickelodeon. We begin our tale with none other than Vlad Plasmius, who, after the events of Phantom Planet, have essentially decided to wander the universe. However, in Vlad's travels, he discovers something floating out in space, something bright orange and gooey, like a form of protoplasm almost. In experimenting with it, he discovers that through manipulating it with his own ectoplasmic body, he is able to actually create portals into other universes. And through more experimentation, he finds that yes, indeed, through this travel, he can merge universes. And so when he loops them all together, he creates a sort of connected multiverse, opening portals to these other universes. That being the universes of My Life as a Teenage Robot, featuring the wonderful Jenny Wakeman, and his home universe, that of Danny Phantom, as well as a few others like SpongeBob, Bikini Bottom, and of course Jimmy Neutron, and last but not least, the elemental nations from Avatar. So, with this in mind, he decides to try and create a sort of continuous universe to merge them all into a singular universe with his power of the orange slime. He will rule all. However, there is a bit of a problem. Trying something on this scale ends up causing a multiversal distortion, which brings everything crashing down into a particular universe, one that is no stranger to other universal incursions, that being the DC Universe. Now, here is where we get the main bulk of the story, as a lot of Nickelodeon universes and DC locations end up merging. For instance, you have the town of Tremerton from My Life as a Teenage Robot merging with Smallville. And as such, you have Jenny teaming up with Supergirl and Superboy as they end up dealing with a contingent of cluster troops that were already invading Tremerton. But, however, the problem is, while Tremertonville, as it's going to be called for this, has been dealing with this, the cluster troops end up finding a remnant of, while scouting around, they end up finding a remnant of a piece of Brainiac's ship from the last time he invaded Smallville and took on Superboy. And it's through this Brainiac tech that they're able to upgrade themselves, even the cluster bots are able to upgrade themselves even further. So yeah, there's a bit of a problem there. Now, basically Jenny and Connor would really hit it off, especially since, Connor was essentially made in a lab for a specific purpose, but he ended up breaking out and being his own thing, his own person, and I think Jenny would really, kind of bond with him over that. And of course, Jenny and Kara would definitely, they would get along pretty well. It's like, girl talk, everything. I will say though, I really do think Jenny would have a major crush on Connor. Just saying. And of course, Connor and Jenny of course, Connor and Kara would be like, huh, oh, so cool, robot girl. And not the weirdest thing we've run into. I think they really hit it off. Might be even try. Connor would probably try to ask Jenny, like, "Hey, do you want to join Young Justice? If this whole multiversal thing doesn't get sorted out, would you mind? Would you think about considering joining Young Justice?" So yeah, that would be a bit of a fun one. Especially if Vexus ends up getting her hands on a lot of Brainiac's higher tech, because imagine that, the cluster with Brainiac tech, that would not be good. That would not be good for anybody. As this is going on, Retroville ends up being merged with Ivytown, the Atom's hometown, and it's here that Jimmy ends up. At the same time, Jimmy was experimenting with his shrink ray, and ends up on the subatomic universe, right as Ray Palmer was too, as the universe is merged. So it's Jimmy and Sheen and Carl teaming with the Atom, and because they've essentially been stranded in the subatomic universe, because due to the multiversal incursion. And who do they find down there but Zim? Yeah, it turns out Zim had actually been doing experiments in his universe with trying to shrink Earth down. Essentially like Zim, classic mad science, trying to shrink Earth down to present it to the tallest. Yeah, because he has successfully taken Earth, like literally taken Earth. That would be Zim's whole thing there, where it's essentially, so we have the Atom and Jimmy Neutron versus Zim. Because the thing is, Zim would like Zim would look at Jimmy like, "You remind me of another large-headed human." I can't do Zim, but seriously, Zim would look at Jimmy and be like, "Oh, you remind me of that. You remind me of the Dib." And Sheen would just be like, would be looking at the Atom like, "Wow, a superhero. You're kind of like a Ultra Lord." And Ray would just be like, "I don't know who that is, kid, but are you all right?" And Carl's like, "Oh yeah, that's just Sheen." And Ray would definitely be like, Ray would definitely be just kind of, "Okay, Jimmy, is it? Yeah, I like you, kid. You got a good head on your shoulders. What's wrong with what's wrong with the hyperactive kid? Because I've seen hyperactivity. I've been around Impulse before, and even he was less hyper than this kid." But yeah, just that would be a little fun, pretty cool, fun one. Because especially since come on, Jimmy Neutron and the Atom, or the that's kind of a fun little that would be kind of a little fun aside there, especially as they try to stop Zim. Because Zim just gonna be imagine Zim getting his hands on actual dwarf star material to shrink stuff with. That would be a nightmare. That would be an absolute nightmare. So yeah, they do beat Zim and get back to regular size, but that's when they notice that their worlds actually have merged. Cue Zim essentially beating a hasty retreat and getting out of there once they're at regular size, and he's like, "Other Earths? Oh, this is going to be impossible." That's when he finds out that there's the cluster there, and wait, other invaders? Other invaders? No, the tallest will never let this stand. So essentially Zim is going to go off on his own. If you're thinking that Zim is going to team up with any of the other villains for this, you'd be horribly, horribly wrong, because it's Zim. He is not a team player on any level. So, it might work with one person to do something. Never mind a team. Never mind a team at all. Then of course there's So yeah, Ray and the Atom and Jimmy would need to start trying to figure out exactly what's causing this universal merge. As this is going on, Themyscira has ended up being home to a couple of major locations from the elemental nations, which would be Air Temple Island. And yeah, so essentially you have Korra there, as well as Aang, because here's the thing: the multiversal distortion is causing a lot of time distortion for some of the Earths too. So you have Korra and Aang existing on Themyscira, and Wonder Woman's there, and it's like, okay, so you're essentially a guardian. The Avatar is essentially a guardian for your Earth. He's like, yeah, and Korra and Aang are like, yeah. Korra's a little freaked out at meeting Aang, cause at this point she's seen Aang in spirit vision and everything. Aang is like, wow, I'm actually seeing the next Avatar. Huh, cool. And of course they try to. Of course, Diana does try to point out that this probably won't affect your future too much because we've dealt with multiversal and time distortion before. Chances are this will snap back. But yeah, we do need to figure out what's going on. But before they can do that, though, Cersei has essentially found some dark spirits from the Avatar universe and is essentially laying them loose all over Themyscira. And so yeah, that's not good. That's not good. So it's Aang and Korra and Wonder Woman, and of course Donna Troy teaming up, and Cassie Sandsmark, Wonder Girl, teaming up to stop the dark spirits, because only the Avatar can kind of can bend dark spirits to calm them down. The only problem is they're being backed up by Cersei's magic. And while the Avatar universe has a lot of spirit stuff and elemental bending, there is no real magic in the Avatar universe in that strictest sense. So yeah, that's something that Aang and Korra would really struggle with, really magic. This isn't bending, this isn't chi. What is this? Oh, it's magic. Oh, great. So that's real. Next up would definitely be actually be and this would actually be a pretty one of the lot more lighthearted ones. SpongeBob in Atlantis. Yeah, SpongeBob and Patrick end up being in Atlantis while they're waiting in line for a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy convention. And for the most part, they're unaware that they've actually been put in another universe. Plankton, however, is. Plankton is 100% aware of what's going on, because he was actually looking into other universes at the time when he was, doing that whole thing where he swapped lives with Mr. Krabs. He's trying to do another version of that, but one where trying to find the universe where he specifically invented the Krabby Patty formula. And because of that, though, essentially what would happen is, what would happen at that point is, SpongeBob and Patrick, they're waiting in line to see Mermaid Man, get some, just general con stuff. But when the multiversal shift happens, they're just caught up in it. And Q meeting Aquaman and Garth, Tempest, and they're like, wait, you're not Mermaid, and SpongeBob's like, wait, you're not Mermaid Man? No, I'm Aquaman. Oh, I just get it, you're one of those knockoff cosplayer types. It's nice, but, you really should, you should be aware that, it's a copyright infringement on Mermaid Man. And Aquaman's just like, I'm not Mermaid Man. I don't even know who that is. And then, basically they get into a bit of an argument, as Plankton, decides this Atlantean technology is very useful. With my power, with my genius, I could conquer the world. As Plankton is one to do. So he sneaks in and essentially just and does and he comes across in the Atlantean jail cells Orm. And yeah, Orm is like, I don't know what you are. You don't look like any plankton I've ever seen. That's because I'm plankton. And like Orm's like, okay, you're small enough that you could probably help me get out of here. So if you, I'm the rightful king of Atlantis. If you get me out of here, I will like help you in any way to become the ruler of the world. Obviously, Orm planning on just stepping on Plankton the second he gets a chance to. Unfortunately, during this time, Plankton breaks him out by using an Atlantean war suit that he's hijacked. So yeah, Plankton and Ocean Master teaming up, and like SpongeBob finds out, oh wait, Plankton's here. I know what I must do. Like he does that whole big chin thing SpongeBob does, and SpongeBob and Patrick, of course, they've been dressed like cosplaying as Mermaid Man Barnacle Boy the whole time. Like, quick, Barnacle Boy, do the invisible boatmobile, and they're just scooting on the ground. And Aquaman, Garth are just like, So, essentially, though, this would be more of the comedy-focused one, because, it's SpongeBob. What are you gonna do? And finally, we would come to the big one, which would be Danny Phantom and Superman. Basically, Amity Park has essentially been merged with Metropolis. Now, and because of this, Danny's like, wow, okay, Amity Park got a lot bigger. Yeah, and at first he thinks this might have something to do with Vlad, and he's right. It does have something to do with Vlad, of course. Of course, he doesn't know exactly how big it would be, because, like, he sees, like, big stuff going on like this, especially with all the ghosts being free. He's just like, okay, but it's like, okay, this probably, it's either Vlad or the Ghost King or something like that, being back. Unfortunately, though, there is a problem, because in Danny's universe, the dimensions between the ghost world and the living world are a lot weaker, which is how so many ghosts are able to just exist there. There is a problem, namely because, yeah, some of the ghosts in the ghost zone have managed to break into the Phantom Zone, which is are essentially like free, and because of this. And because of since there are natural portals into the Ghost Zone in Danny's universe, that means that the Ghost Zone and the Phantom Zone have essentially merged, which means there's also natural portals now out of the Phantom Zone as well. So you have, like, tons of Kryptonian criminals. But yeah, because of that, a lot of the Phantom Zone criminals are out and loose, and Danny is having to team up with Clark, like, yeah, this is a Superman. I don't know a Superman. And Clark's like, well, yeah, Ghosts, huh? Well, I know a Phantom Zone, but Ghost Zone, no, that's a new one on me. And during all of this, Lex Luthor has been doing a lot of work on trying to expand LexCorp into other multiverses, like essentially doing hostile takeovers of other LexCorps. And that's when he ends up discovering that the orange protoplasmic goo that Vlad has been using is actually remnants of the blood of the Anti-Monitor. Now, because of this, what would happen is Lex ends up going to Vlad in his war suit, and Vlad's like, so what you're saying is you're a man of like mind. Like, because, Vlad is essentially Lex Luthor of the Danny Phantom universe. Well, Lex mixed with Green Goblin a little bit. And, Lex comes to him with a deal. Like, hey, you want to be a multiversal conqueror, but every good business can't be built alone. Because they're both businessmen, essentially. Horribly shady businessmen, but, Lex speaks to Vlad on that level. And Vlad's like, Len, what's to stop me from just overshadowing you and taking control of your company and this Earth that way? And then he does try to, but here's the problem. You remember it? You may remember in Phantom Planet they had the asteroid that was Ectonite, like that it can't be touched by ghosts. Well, here's the thing. That has the same radiation frequency and composition to kryptonite. And what does Lex always load his armors with? Yeah. So essentially, Vlad's like having to begrudgingly work with Lex on this because Lex has access to some of the best technology on the planet. And if he wants to expand this little multiversal empire, he's going to want to do business with him. So Vlad's like, okay, I'll put up with it for now. Of course, Lex, however, never goes in without a way to take something over. So while he's essentially supplying Vlad with Lex bots and everything to kind of like take over the other universes that he's already stringed together, it's at this point that Superman and Danny realize, okay, there's got to be an originating point as they're like dealing with the Phantom Zone and Ghost Zone villains. And at this point, when you think it couldn't get worse with Lex and Vlad teaming up, who should enter but Zod? And so Zod would essentially be like okay, because like Superman, he can like sense, he can see the the protoplasmic goo that has been behind all of this, and Zod is one like, okay, he finds out that Lex and Vlad are doing it because they're harnessing a lot of the energy of the goo into like this thing that will merge all multiverses into one big multiverse, one super universe kind, essentially. And of course Zod shows up and essentially is like, no. If anyone is going to rule all, it will be Zod. Now kneel. Of course, so essentially you have a three-way fight between Zod, Lex, and Vlad. At which point Danny and Clark break in and manage to shut down the machine, with Danny using his ghostly whale to essentially shatter the machine and scatter that protoplasmic goo and destabilize it. And as he's destabilizing it, eventually it causes the cracks, the merging of the universes to start slowly dissipating. And while Jimmy and but there is a problem. Yep, sorry about that. Phone call, I had to pause. But anyway, so there is a bit of a problem. Remember Zim? Yeah, it turns out Zim caught onto the same thing. And and in typical Zim fashion, he's made things 10,000 times worse. He's going to use the protoplasmic goo from the residue from the anti-monitor to essentially, I'm going to be the ultimate invader. I will conquer all Earths. And naturally, Gurr is he's using Gurr as the conduit, which means he's essentially just filled Gurr up with a bunch of the protoplasmic goo. And at this point, the cluster and even the cluster have realized, okay, something's going on. They're sensing a lot of power emanating, so they're leaving Tremertonville and going to see what that is. So of course Jenny, Supergirl, and Superboy are like give chase, and of course Jimmy, Carl Sheen, and the Atom are like, okay, this had been experimenting with trying to figure out what's going on. So they end up going, and essentially they all show up, and it's pretty much everyone, Zod, everyone are trying to like stop Zim for one reason. What he wants to do is way worse because it's already destabilized the whole merging universes to conquer everything. That's not viable at this point. If it keeps, and even Lex and Vlad realize that. Even Zod is like, okay, at the amount of damage that it's done, if you try to merge universes now, it's going to rip everything apart. Crisis on Infinite Earth style. But Zim's like, no one tells me, no one tells Zim what to do. And so essentially it's like, but Zim's also been hopped up on the power from the protoplasmic goo. So essentially he's actually able to kind of hold his own. And everyone's like, you're insane! And it's like, it's like, obviously Zim being Zim. And even Jimmy's like, that's dumb! Yeah, because when Jimmy points out that there'll be nothing left, Zim's like, but if there's nothing left, that means I'm the ultimate invader. And then Superman's like, that's dumb. That's not invading, that's just dumb. And Zim, of course, dumb like a moose, Cape Man, dumb like a moose. And yeah, eventually Danny does manage to use his ghostly wail combined with a super scream from Superman to essentially fully destabilize the goo and the universe to start to unmerge. So yeah, and of course, and if you're wondering what happened with Plankton and Orm, well, let's just say Plankton ended up getting eaten by a whale that Aquaman summoned. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick had a little side adventure. But they did Aquaman did end up signing a comic book for them, which SpongeBob's like, well, that's nice. I really don't. I mean, you're not Mermaid Man. You know, that's nice. I mean, you're a real. Right, I guess you're a superhero. And Aquaman's just like, ugh. Meanwhile, Patrick essentially just you know, SpongeBob, I think we weren't in Bikini Bottom. And SpongeBob's like, Patrick, they always go bigger and bigger for these cons every year. So yeah, that's the note it ends on. But yeah, anyway, this is a really fun crossover to think of and do. I really want to thank Thomas Hibbert for coming for his request for coming up with the idea. For the setup, and yeah, this was really fun to do. If anyone else wants to do their own, have their own Patreon video put up, request done, the link to the Patreon is still in the description below. This has been Captain Lunar, signing off.